After midnight, the moon set, and I was alone with the stars. I have often said that the lure of flying is the lure of beauty, and I need no other flight to convince me that the reason flyers fly, whether they know it or not, is the aesthetic appeal of flying. Amelia Earhart, 1935.
She must know how to cook, know food.
Amelia Earhart was a woman who challenged the cultural norms of her time. While most women of the 1930s were taking care of the household, Earhart was out there, proving women were capable of working and competing with men. She challenged the cultural norms and pushed other women to do the same. Amelia Earhart was born in her grandparents' house in Atchison, Kansas, on July 24th of 1897, just 4 years after the technology at the Columbian Exposition showed the world what was possible, and just 23 years before the 19th Amendment passed, giving women the right to vote. Earhart's parents were very poor. Unlike her grandparents, Earhart's father had a hard time keeping a job with the railroad, and the family was always on the move. This affected Earhart later in her life. As an adult, she once said, "I have never lived more than 4 years in any one place, and always have to ask, which one, when a stranger greets me by saying, 'I'm from your hometown.'" In the fall of 1916, 19-year-old Amelia Earhart went to the Egan School in Pennsylvania. The headmistress of the school, Miss Sutherland, taught Earhart and the other students that they should be independent and to do what they believed was right. In her second year at the Egan School, considered a finishing school for young women, Amelia was elected class president. The irony of attending a school whose mission was to prepare her for an entry into a fashionable society was not lost on Amelia. The class motto she created was not about falling in line, but about following a dream. Honor is the foundation of courage.
Was a counselor at Purdue University advising young women college students about their careers and urging them to go into careers that women weren't encouraged to go into in those days.
During Christmas break of 1917, Amelia went to Toronto, Canada, to help soldiers that had been wounded in World War I. Later in her life, a man named Sam Chapman asked Earhart to marry him, but Earhart said no, refusing to marry in order to preserve her independence. On Christmas Day in 1920, Earhart, now 23, saw an air show for the first time. She was amazed. 3 days later, Earhart and her father went to Rogers Field for Earhart's first flight. The ride was 10 minutes long. Earhart later wrote that, "As soon as we left the ground, I knew I, myself, had to fly. I told my family, casually that evening, knowing full well I'd die if I didn't." The irony of her comment would become clear 17 years later. Soon after, at Kinner Airfield, Amelia found a female flight instructor named Netta Snook. On December 15, 1921, Earhart passed her test for a flying license. Amelia Earhart broke many aviation records in her lifetime. One of the records she broke was the altitude record. Without telling anyone her plan, Earhart flew up to a record-breaking 14,000 feet until her engine failed, She beat this record again later in her career with an altitude of 18,415 feet. Earhart was also the first person to fly solo, crossing the Pacific Ocean from Honolulu to Oakland, California. On May 20th through the 21st, 1932, Earhart set the most challenging record of her lifetime. Earhart became the first woman to fly solo, crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
How does it feel to fly both oceans, Miss Earhart?
Well, it was very interesting to me to fly in southern waters rather than in the north. On the Atlantic flight, I had ice conditions and general storm. On this flight, really no bad weather at all except a few little rain squalls.
After Earhart arrived back in the United States, President Hoover presented her with the Distinguished Flying Cross, an award that is presented to someone who has shown bravery and extraordinary achievement in aviation. Amelia Earhart soon competed in the Women's Air Derby, an air race for women. The competitors raced from Santa Monica, California to Cleveland, Ohio. Earhart eventually won third place, falling behind Louise Thatton and Gladys O'Donnell. Some people did not take the Women's Air Derby as seriously as others. Some people called the race the Powerpuff Derby. These people thought it was silly for women to fly airplanes, but Earhart and 18 others entered to prove that women should be able to fly. After the Air Derby, some of the women in the race, including Amelia, started up a group called the 99s. Earhart was elected president by the other women. The group was formed for the advancement of female aviators. The 99s helped encourage women pilots and help them get jobs. Performance records achieved by women in aviation were also kept. Amelia Earhart eventually married George Putnam. Putnam was a book publisher and wanted Amelia to become even more famous. He did not want Amelia to stay home, like the other women of the day. When they were married, Amelia kept her name as Amelia Earhart Putnam. She wanted to keep her last name because of the fact that she wanted freedom, and emphasized her want in the marriage to be a partnership with dual control. In a letter to George before they were married, Earhart wrote, "You must know again my reluctance to marry. In our life together, I shall not hold you to any medieval code of faithfulness to me, nor shall I consider myself bound to you." In 1937, Amelia Earhart's biggest and final aviation plan was here. She planned to fly around the world. Many other pilots had completed this task, but Earhart was going to fly near the equator, the longest way around. 3 weeks after she started, Earhart had flown over 20,000 miles in over 135 hours. Unfortunately, on her third to last flight to finish her lap around the world, Earhart went missing. She never made it to her destination. Earhart's destination was tiny Howland Island, located in the Central Pacific Ocean. Because she never arrived, many theories have been made about her disappearance.
She mattered then and she mattered now. People lived their lives and are now living their lives differently because of her example, because of her inspiration.
All through her life, Amelia Earhart challenged the cultural norms about women. Women were believed to stay at home and take care of the household. Not Amelia. She broke the mold that society created for women. Her legacy is not the record she broke, but the cultural norms that she challenged.
Happy